Hi, I'm Professor George from Montclair State University, and this presentation is about how we used a hashtag to engage students and collaborate. So, a little bit about me before we start. I am a professor of journalism at Montclair State University. I'm the head of journalism and television and digital media. I have a long background as a professional journalist, starting first in Singapore and London, New York, and New Jersey. In addition to teaching and administrative duties at Montclair State, I'm also the advisor to the Montclarion, which is the award-winning Montclair State student independent news organization, a multimedia news initiative that we embarked on at the School of Communication Media during the 2018-2019 academic year. The initiative brought together students and faculty within our School of Communication and Media in a collaboration, and we broke down the silos. We brought together different constituencies within the school, and the central operating principle that facilitated collaboration was a hashtag. This was a new project for us. It was experimental, and we're pretty proud of what we achieved. So a little bit about our school. The School of Communication and Media is a relatively new entity at Montclair State. We have a brand new building with state-of-the-art equipment, and we opened about 3 years ago. And the idea of this brand new building was that it would bring together the different constituencies within our school together in one building, in addition to the student media organizations. And by being all together in one building, the idea was that it would help students and faculty get to know each other. It would facilitate collaboration and be forward-looking in the way that media is created in the modern era. So our new building has 4 undergraduate areas that include comm studies, journalism, television and digital media, and finally film, all different majors within our school. We also have a graduate public relations program, and we have a number of different student media entities. The first is the Montclarion, a news organization that has more than a 100-year history at Montclair State. We have a radio station, WMSC, and we have a television show called Montclair News Lab. There's also a PR organization involving students called Hawks PR. And we have additionally a grant-funded organization called the Center for Cooperative Media, which is housed within our building and whose goal is to support journalism, particularly in New Jersey, and particularly with a view to facilitating collaboration. So let me just take you through some of the different constituencies that we have in the building, how they operate, and these were the components of our collaborative project. So the first is the Montclarion, and the Montclarion has a unique structure in that it is 100% independently student run. I'm the advisor to it, but the students have control of the budget. They have control of the editorial process. They have a very well-run system of training that they use to bring in new students. They get trained by the older students, and it's a really good apprentice program that they have. They meet collectively once a week, but they also now work constantly covering news, covering all different aspects of life on campus. And they are completely multi-platform, meaning that even though their origins were as a newspaper, they now have a website, they do video, they have a very vibrant social media presence, and they also at times do some audio production too. We also have a radio station. Their structure is slightly different. They've also been at the university a very long time, but they have a different structure in that even though it's completely staffed by students, they do have at the head of the organization a staff member, a general manager, who is, for lack of a better term, the adult in the room, and who has a history from professional radio. And she's in control of the budget, she oversees the students, she mentors and teaches, and is by and large responsible for running the place. We also have a television production that's called Montclair News Lab, and this again has a slightly different structure. They are run basically out of a class, overseen by 2 faculty members. Students can take the class, usually as upperclassmen, and they can come in with a variety of backgrounds, although the class at the moment is dominated by students who are in the journalism major or in the television and digital media major. However, there are students that come in from comm studies, and every now and again we get a student who's interested and who comes from outside our school. So to bring all these different media constituencies together, when the building opened, we created what we call a coordination desk. And the coordination desk is basically a meeting of any students who want to get involved in productions that we create as a group. And faculty come in, mainly it's faculty from television and from journalism. Not all the faculty, but some of them come. We have the leaders of the various student media organizations, and then any students who, either from within our school or from without, who are just interested in getting involved in the productions that we do. The group meets once a week, usually Tuesday mornings, and we meet for about an hour. We talk about the different work that each individual organization is doing, with the idea of facilitating content sharing and collaboration. For some of us journalists, we've had to adapt to the idea of sharing our content, but we've done so pretty seamlessly. And it's a really good environment. It's fun, people get on. The students cycle through from one year to the next, but we really hand over to the student leaders in the room, leadership of the production, but they also get the expertise that the faculty, who are all professionals with long histories in professional media, they get to learn by working side by side with us. So for this particular project, our goals were to come up with a project that would facilitate collaboration, harness our power in numbers, meaning what do we have as an asset? In our group, we have a lot of students, there's a lot of us, we have maybe power in numbers. We wanted to produce content because that's what we do. We're content producers, we're media makers. And we wanted to try and create a project that would have actual impact. So we thought to ourselves, what if we pick a topic and we publish content around that topic using all our platforms, meaning our radio station, our television show, our multi-platform news organization, and some of the other platforms that we have that are more secondary and mainly come out of the classes that we have within the School of Communication Media. And what if we produce that content all at the same time? The idea being that by publishing simultaneously, we would have impact. And what if we used the social media tools that we now have at our disposal and that all our students are pretty proficient in. Use that social media to move that story, send it out into the world, and create the impact that we dream of as content creators. So we used a concept that one of our adjuncts told us about called a thunderclap, which is used largely in the corporate world, although it's not widely known. So we adopted this idea of publishing simultaneously. We called it our thunderclap. And we picked a date towards the end of the spring semester, and we zeroed in on the date of April 10th. It was far enough into the semester that it would allow work to take place during the semester that could be used towards the thunderclap, but it wasn't too late in our semester, which goes to early May, that it would suffer from competing with exams or final events or all the things that take place at the end of the summer. So we determined that we would build to that date and promote our project on social media in the lead up to the thunderclap date. Then we would, on that date, unleash all of our content simultaneously on multiple platforms. So the students in our group decided that they liked the idea of focusing on immigration. And so we batted around a couple of ideas, all of them generated by students with faculty chiming in. And they picked the idea of immigration. We do have a number of students at Montclair State who have immigrant backgrounds. It seemed topical at the time. It was in the news. And it seemed like a topic that would have wide appeal. So we zeroed in on that as our topic. And then for the project, the students came up with the buzzword focus, that we would be focusing on immigration. And so this became our hashtag focus immigration. And the students also liked the idea that we could use the concept of focus to focus on other topics down the road that we might want to spend our time on, thereby preserving this idea of focus and creating some kind of continuation from one semester to the next. Okay, so on Thunderclap Day, our plan was to have a live TV show, to have a live radio show, to organize a colloquium in our building featuring student speakers who would talk about their work. We would have a social media war room, which brought together all the students who were responsible for running the social media handles for all the various interests in our school, including the student media, including the school itself, including some of the other handles that get run out of our building. And the newspaper, the students running the news organization, decided that they would have a special edition of their newspaper that would be published the following day and that would cover the event itself. Okay, so we developed a social media strategy in advance of our Thunderclap, and we decided that we would roll out content 2 weeks prior to the Thunderclap to try and generate interest in our project. One of the tools that we used to organize our content and to communicate was Google Drive, which allowed us to share content in folders that could be accessed by various different constituencies. And this became important as more and more content was being generated from lots of different sources. It was all channeled into a Google Drive. And then the students who were running the social media handles were able to access that content in the Google Drive, a very important part of the process. And the students who volunteered to do editing were also able to access the content in the Google Drive. All right, so one of the things that we were able to do was get some money, not a lot, but the marketing department at our university was interested in this project, And so they gave us some money to create a few things that we would enable us to get our brand out there. And the students designed, they wanted to have caps they thought would be visual. So they used some of the money to design and order caps that we used on the day of the thunderclap, but which they also used to try and generate some social media interest by doing giveaways of the caps. Then, again, 2 weeks before the thunderclap day, they decided that we would, again, try a strategy to create interest in our project. And all of the handles that were run out of our school turned their profile image to this icon that was created, the hashtag Focus Immigration. So the Montclarion, for example, the student who ran social media for the Montclarion, went into the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram for the Montclarion and changed the profile image to Focus Immigration. And this was done across all the handles, all the social media platforms that are within our building. Again, simultaneously to try and create kind of impact and interest for our project and for what we were doing. We also decided that we were going to try and do a call to action. And the students decided that we would try and invite people to participate in our project, again, in advance of the thunderclap day to try and generate interest and invite people to share their immigration stories. And we were hoping that people would share, that they would interpret this widely, that it could either be a personal story of immigration, it could be a story about somebody you knew who was an immigrant, it could be just general thoughts on immigration. And we came up with a secondary hashtag #MyImmigrantStoryIs. And we decided that we would invite people to tell selfie video stories and to post them on their social media. To promote this, we used our social media platforms, but we also posted old-fashioned flyers around the building, inviting people to participate. And so we started doing this again 2 weeks in advance of the actual thunderclap day. And this was our initial response. 0. Crickets. Nothing happened. Nobody did anything. It was immediately unsettling and a little bit disappointing. But then this happened. One of the students who was involved in the project, somewhat tangentially, but she was still involved. She was an editor at the Montclarion. She dug around in her family archives in the house, and she dug up this document, which was a document that was used from one of her relatives from Ellis Island. She took a picture of it, and she shared this post on Twitter. And this was our first post. And it was really exciting. She hashtagged it with the Focus Immigration. She tagged the Montclarion so that they would know that this had happened. And then the posts started to come. And the people who were posting initially were some of the students who were involved in the project, who were coming to the collaboration meetings, the coordination desk meetings. And one of the students dug into her family photographs and found this picture of her when she was young and posted it on Instagram, again hashtagging it with the hashtags that we had requested. More photographs, more posts started to come in. I would not say they poured in. It was definitely a trickle, but it started to get exciting. This was a post from one of the students whose grandfather was very colorful, and she shared this image of him. This was a very moving story that somebody posted a picture of her adoption. And this was an older person who now was posting, was not a student, but somebody from the Montclair State community who knew about our project. And this was the moment where she arrived in the United States for the very first time, having been adopted from Russia by her parents. This was taken in the airport. And again, the posts reflected the diversity of the student body, and the content started to flow. In addition to the students who were posting and members of the community, one of our faculty members, who's a photojournalist, posted photographs that he took while at the border. He went and did a special project, captured some very exciting footage and photographs of people crossing from the Mexican side of the border, sneaking through onto US soil, and posted photographs and video with stories explaining what he had seen. So now the ball was rolling and things were starting to get interesting, but we felt a growing pressure, a demand for content to keep the momentum going on our social media platforms. We would meet in the collaboration desk meetings, and the students who were running the social media handles were saying, okay, do we have content? We need content. And so we felt this growing demand for content. So we created a banner with our logo on it. We set it up in the lobby of our building, and we invited people coming past to sit down in front of the banner and talk into the camera and record 1 minute or 30-second videos of them talking about their immigrant stories. And we prompted them with a prompt, and we had a number of videos that were recorded over the course of the day. We gave people free hats, and we took down their social media information so that when we posted, we could tag them and again try and get the word out that we were doing this project. We got some great interviews, and we accessed lots of different types of people from within the campus community. Then students themselves started to create content on their own. This is an example of one such project that a student did. She got students to read mean tweets about immigrants and react to them, and created a 5-minute video that was very engaging, very much something that the students responded to. And we had editors cut up that video and push out smaller increments on social media. We also had a class that was doing a feature film. They do feature television, and they created a script and organized basically a television drama. It lasted about 5.5 minutes around the theme of immigration. And then we created a website. So as this content started to come in from lots of different sources, the radio station was producing content, television station was producing content, classes, the Montclarion, now content was starting to come in. And as a way of organizing it, we created a website, focusimmigration.org, and we organized the website as basically a portal that featured the work that we were producing. The radio, again, in this period leading up to the Thunderclap, was producing content. The Montclarion was producing content using the hashtag to organize it. And then they decided that on the day after the Thunderclap, they would produce a special edition of the newspaper itself. All right, so April 10th arrived, Thunderclap Day. We began the day with a colloquium that included a student panel, and it was a really exciting event. Very often we have experts come in for the colloquia, and there usually are people who are advanced in their careers from outside the university. This was unusual in that it was students sharing their expertise, and we had a really great turnout and a really great panel, which yielded a very good discussion about immigration. We also paid $200 for the day to have access to TweetBeam, which channeled all the social media that we were producing, organized it on a hashtag, and put it on this screen. We had screens all throughout the building that featured the TweetBeam, and it was constantly updating. It's something that's often used in conferences, but we used it to great effect to organize and display, to have a kind of visual of all the activity that was going on around our hashtag. It also served as a backdrop for the students when they went live on camera for the show that day, again, as a visualization of the social media activity that we were generating. By this point, our content was really starting to flow. This was our grid was looking really good, lots of different types of content. People from all throughout the university, and particularly our school, were getting involved. This was our website that we used screen grabs of all the different photographs that people had accessed from their family folders, family albums, and we put it together on the homepage of our website. The live show was very exciting. We had lots of guests come in, students as well as experts, to talk about immigration. People were able to watch the broadcast live. We streamed it on our website, and we had other places. So there were multiple platforms where if you wanted to, you could tune in to the live broadcast of the show. At the same time as showing the live production, this was our war room, our social media war room, which was organized right next door to the studio where the show was going live. And these were students from all the different social media handles within our project. And they worked throughout the course of the show, which was about 2 hours and into the night, to try and generate interest, working together, really promoting the hashtag. This was the moment where we realized that we were trending. We got this notification that we were trending worldwide. We don't really think we were trending worldwide, but we were certainly trending locally. Then we were able to access the data and the stats on how we had done, and that was part of the process to really see how we had, been able to have an impact and the true reach of our project. All right, so part of the post-mortem was thinking about some of the unexpected problems that we had and how, if we were to do something like this in the future, how we could maybe head them off. So the first problem that we had was we had a really hard time getting people to post selfie videos. It almost didn't happen. I think we could count them in total on one hand. People just didn't want to do selfie videos. So for next time we vowed we wouldn't bother with that. It seemed like too much work to be asking for students and people outside of our project to do. Some students said after the project that they had felt unqualified to post about immigration, and we detected somewhat of a feeling that there were some students who just felt like that they couldn't participate because the topic itself didn't relate to them. We had hoped that anybody would feel that they could have an opinion on immigration, but the way the project developed, it became something that people were sharing personal stories, and so people who weren't really in touch or didn't really have what they considered to be immediate immigration histories felt that they didn't really have anything to say. So we thought that for next time we would think that through and try and anticipate and maybe think of a project that would have universal appeal. Some students just didn't want to use their personal social media accounts for serious school-related topics. This was particularly true of the freshmen, the lower classmen who were maybe not yet quite well versed in the use of social media as a professional tool. And we just couldn't get them, even with a lot of encouragement, to use their personal accounts to get involved in a project like this. We also got some pushback from faculty and students who felt resentful that we were suggesting that classwork be used for a group project like this. Some faculty felt pressure on, again, this demand for content that the project generated, inadvertently put pressure on faculty to be generating content, and some faculty felt that this prioritized the creation of content over student learning, and they decided that they did not want that to happen. And so, some decisions were made about next time around what degree of commitment we might get from certain faculty, and faculty decided that they would create safeguards in the way that they organize their participation in projects like this to make sure that the priority was always on student learning and content generation was secondary. We had a lot of hashtag confusion. We noticed as the project was unfolding that the My Immigrant Story hashtag was showing up as My Immigration Story, My Immigrant Story is, My Immigration Story is. So we decided that in future we would stick to one hashtag, and we would really think through any possible permutations and try and avoid creating a hashtag that could be easily misinterpreted. This was our celebratory photograph that we took at the end of the live show. We were feeling very happy about what we had achieved. It was clearly an experiment, but it exceeded our expectations. However, afterwards a lot of people said, hey, that looked fun, how come I didn't know about it? So despite our best efforts to promote and get the word out there, there were still great swaths of the school who afterwards said that they had no idea that we had been doing this. I would say that afterwards I also felt we didn't do a good job of tracking impact, which is a growing theme in journalism. And we decided that for future we might get some advice on impact tracking, again, which is a growing theme in journalism. Other takeaways, it was fun. The students really enjoyed it. We felt like we were doing something new. It was an idea that I had no idea whether it would succeed, and it was something new, and it succeeded beyond our expectations. We really did break down those silos. The atmosphere in our building is pretty good. The students do collaborate. There's some friction every now and again, but our different silos are not too entrenched. But we did really facilitate collaboration and did break down their silos. And some students really wanted to do it again. So the next project that we embarked on, again along the very same model, was hashtag focus, this time focus climate change, which, believe it or not, at the time when the students were brainstorming on what to do, climate was not yet quite in the zeitgeist, but clearly it must have been, because as we started to work on this project, climate change became more and more a theme of global interest. And we made some tweaks to the project this time. We decided that we wouldn't do a thunderclap, that we would just have focus climate change as a hashtag that would run through the work that we generated throughout the course of the year. We tried to encourage student leaders to have a bigger role and to minimize faculty leadership. We now had a model which the students could follow. We decided that we would make it less intense. As much fun as it was very demanding. And we figured that if we spread it out over the course of a year rather than a semester, it would take away from the intensity and allow it to be more of a theme that permeated the work that we did as a school over the course of the semester. And we identified sectors within our school that had not really played a role in our collaboration. And we hoped that this time around we would be able to draw in some of the other constituencies within our school who had not really been that involved. And the one that comes to mind chiefly was the comm studies folks. And for the Focus Climate Change, we did manage to get them to get involved. The Center for Cooperative Media organized an event that brought together students from other universities in New Jersey, also working on this theme of climate change. And this is a screen grab from a video that was made of a riverboat trip that was taken over the summer break that involved students from Montclair State as well as other universities in New Jersey. That's it. We are really proud of the collaboration. We feel that we have a model for collaboration going forward. It's emboldened us to try new things and to be not afraid to really work together to bring in lots of different constituencies, and to use social media and some of the tools that the students really enjoy engaging with to create collaboration and just get to know each other. So if anybody would like more information, here is my email address, georgeta@montclair.edu. And the work that we did is collected on the focusimmigration.org website and includes some articles that were published by faculty about this project on MediaShift and on Pointer and the Center for Cooperative Media's website. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and thank you very much for allowing me to share my information with you.